Welcome to the Edinburgh Fringe. Today, a writer, an actor, a comedian, and a polemist. And they're all called Henry Naylor. Yes, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. This is Edinburgh Calling. I'm Ewan Spence. It is July, so it's part of our preview episodes as we look forward to what August and the Fringe has to offer. Weekly interviews coming up now. We will switch when the Fringe gets here in August to episodes on Monday through Friday, and then we'll have our radio broadcast Saturday, Sunday at the weekend. Radio at radio6.com. It's an omnibus edition, so if you keep up to date with the podcast, you will get almost all the same content as well. EdinburghFringe.thepodcastcorner.com or wherever you find your podcasts. So today, we have Henry Naylor, who is not a stranger to the Fringe. More than 20 years of experience in Edinburgh, sometimes as a comic, sometimes as a writer, sometimes as a performer, sometimes as a mix of all three. Over the years, he has seen the Fringe change, but he has also seen its value. So this is a perfect place for our July previews. Henry and I do look back at the past. Whenever you put Fringe veterans in a room together, they can't help but remember the good old days. But it's also a look at the Fringe today and going forward through the lens of Henry's latest show, which is based around Elton John's libel case against the Sun in the 1980s. It's called Monstering The Rocketman, and it is a timely drama about press values by triple Fringe first winner Naylor. That bit's from his press release, you can probably tell. Anyway, the show itself, Pleasance Dome, 4:10pm from Wednesday the 30th of July, which is the Fringe's preview weeks. You'll find the previews going on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at the end of July. Generally, the tickets there are going to be slightly cheaper as well if you are local or arriving early. It goes right through until Sunday the 24th of August, which is pretty much true for all the shows during the full runs. There are some shows that will show up on Monday the 25th of August as well. Check listings for details. But before we get to the capital, before we start all filtering all of those shows and everything, settle in as I have a chat with Henry Naylor. Henry Naylor, what a CV, what a collection, which all leads to this little poser for you.
Yes.
Why are you back at the Fringe again?
Oh, Ewan, I love it. You do too. Come on, you do.
Yeah, but I live here and I can use it as a tax write-off.
No, but most Edinburgh people, I thought, hated it. I mean, I thought most Edinburgh people thought, oh, not these bunch coming up from down south, sort of filling up our streets and sort of shoving flyers through everybody's letterbox. So I thought...
Curiously enough, I hate it on the first day of the press launches. And I go, why are you all here? And then I do 3 days of press launches, and then I remember how much I enjoy it. So I need whatever the equivalent of decompression is. I need to get that pressure to turn Edinburgh get out of our city into the arts capital of the world.
Come on. It is amazing, though, isn't it? I mean, sort of like, I mean, with this job, I do a lot of festivals, a lot of fringes, and there's nothing remotely like Edinburgh in terms of scale, size. You get the best acts in the world there. I mean, sort of like, it's something to be really proud of. I think sort of, it is quite extraordinary. And sort of, I've just done the Hollywood Fringe, and loads of, you mentioned that you're doing Edinburgh, and they're like, Edinburgh, and they all want to do it. It's sort of like it's just incredible.
and we're so over in hands if we start to go into the, it needs to be nurtured and it's not the same as it was and all of that. Okay, couple of rules of thumb here. One, we're not doing that on this episode. We could maybe do that halfway through, Henry. Two, the best Fringe in the world was the first one you went to. The best one, that was the year before you first went to it, and everything else is downhill.
I'll tell you what, the first Edinburgh Fringe did was not the best Fringe I've ever been to.
No, it was the one before the first one you did. Everybody told you it was lovely and golden and amazing. And
no, I did a school play up here in about 1985, and it was just terrible. It was set in ancient Greece. We all had to wear bed sheets and pretending they were togas, and it was somewhere miles away. I think it was it was about sort of 3 or 4 miles away from the city centre. And literally, we had one man and his dog watching the show one night. There was 8 of us on stage. This guy turned up with his Labrador, sat down and watched it, and then sort of looked bored and left. It was terrible. And it was called Aphrodite. And I remember it being sat in sort of like a forum in ancient Greece. And one of the kids was wearing sort of his specs, and he just kind of thought, you wouldn't have been wearing those in ancient Greece. Come on. It was shocking, I'll tell you, Ewan.
But that is what the Fringe is. That's what the Fringe to me is. Yes, you can have those highly polished moments, but you can also have the experimental. You can also have the first steps. And I love the fact that probably next to the school play, you'd have, this is 1985, isn't it? Okay, so you probably would have had a double bill of Arthur Smith and God, who would you pair Arthur Smith up with in 1985?
Oh my God!
With Janet Brown, Arthur Smith and Janet Brown. Yeah. We're making this show up, by the way, in 1985. And it probably would have, knowing Arthur, it probably would have been a reworking of the invasion of the Falkland Islands if Michael Foot had been in charge instead of Thatcher.
God, that would have been intriguing.
We have now lost everybody under the age of 45.
Well, I don't know. It might be a historical curiosity.
I mean, this is the thing that gets me when I look back at your CV. Honestly, we are going to get to the Fringe stuff shortly, but I look at everything you've done. And you've been at various touchstones in my life without me knowing it, starting probably with Spinning Image back in the early 90s.
Yes. Yes. No, I love that. I did. Andy Parsons and myself were we were 2 of the lead writers for about 3 or 4 series, right towards the end. It was fabulous. I used to love writing for that, Ewan. There's a joy. Because one of the problems with writing for TV, I find, is sort of like you very often write something in, let's say, February, and you don't see it on air till October, and you kind of forgotten what you were trying to do. But what the joy with Spitting Images, you'd write it on Tuesday, and it'd be on air on Sunday, and you could see what you might have done better. And you go, I should have done this, or I could have done that, or, it's a very good learning process, I think, certainly for writing telly.
You've got comedy in there, you've got stand-up, you've got more theatrical pieces, shall we say.
Yes.
So who are you as a writer?
I think very much a playwright now. I mean, there was the first, about the first 15, 20 years of my career, I was very much sort of comedy sketch writer, did this double act with Andy Parsons, did it on radio, then did a bit of TV directing, and then it's when I had kids, really. I think there's something I find, you with writing comedy, it's a bit frustrating because if you've got something you want to say, just because of the nature of the form, it's never very nuanced. You've got to know exactly where you stand with comedy for a joke to be funny. You can't it doesn't allow for much subtlety. Whereas I think sort of when the war with Iraq happened, I had a lot I wanted to say, and you couldn't say it all with comedy and stuff. In fact, the first play I wrote, when I decided I wanted to become a playwright, I wanted to write the hardest thing possible to try and make funny. and that I wanted to write something about Abu Ghraib. And when I started writing it, I kind of thought, no, this you can't do this. This is just trivializing it. And I really wanted to. I had some things I wanted to get off my chest, and so it became. It became quite a weighty piece. And that won the Fringe first. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm good at this. So I wrote another one, and then that won the Spirit of the Fringe. And then sort of, I kind of thought, do you know what? This is what I'll probably do best. And so I've got sucked into writing dramas now.
Do you think you could have written those dramas earlier in your career, or did you need that sort of satire and pressure of the fast turnaround first?
Well, no, I think I tell you what, Ewan, the thing about doing comedy, which is really useful for writing drama, is an audience tells you whether something's working or not, more so in comedy than in any other art form. And when you've been doing it a while, you can kind of sense the mood of an audience. And I think as a result, as a playwright, I've got a sense of when something is getting a bit boring, and so I'm quite good at editing it to make stuff a bit lively and sparky and sort of sustain an audience's attention because of the comedy experience I've had, I think. Yeah, so it has very much helped. But I think the points you can make with theatre are just so much more. You can get so much more nuance, and you can sort of, I think part of the problem with comedy is you'll say, the government is crap, and you say, well, the government's crap. If you're writing a play, you say the government's crap, but why did they make that decision, and why, what would you have done if you were making that decision? Would you have made the same choices? And I think that's much more interesting. I think sort of, and it goes into much more depth, and that's what I like writing about. Really, I like sort of. There are, I think, even villains have a rationale which you can understand. And I don't think comedy allows for that. People are either good guys or bad guys, and sort of like, whereas in drama, your good guys have flaws and your bad guys have flaws, and I think that's more interesting.
I'm interested in what you said there about your audience at comedies gives you much more feedback, and you could like feel the audience when you're writing. Do you miss then writing and performing and knowing you can alter on the fly? With a stand-up, you can just go, I need to course correct now in the middle of a show. You can't really do that as a playwright, and you can't really do that as a performer either. So how does that change how you work, or how is it altered how you work compared to the standard format of a playwright?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's something about stand-up is you can be editing the show in real time. You can go, oh, I'll drop that bit. They're not liking this sort of stuff. I need to hit them now with a sort of a big laugh, and you can shuffle the order around and edit it while you're on stage. Yes, and you can't do that with theatre. But it's funny. I've been trying my last couple of plays. I've been trying to sort of infuse a bit of the stand-up way of doing things into the performance. So I've done. This is going to be my second monologue, which I've been performing myself. I mean, my other 8 plays, I think they've all been done by other actors, but these 2 I haven't. And I've been trying to do that. So, although I'm playing characters or there are little scenes which I'm going to play, I will, if I can, I will sort of like respond to the energy I'm getting off the audience a bit.
Does Henry Naylor, the actor, have to challenge Henry Naylor, the director, in that moment? Are you two sides fighting, or are you a whole on the stage and can have work in tandem?
I don't see them as separate people, really. I think so. Like both the director and the performer are doing the same thing, trying to entertain the audience. And I think both agree with each other. If I'm losing the audience, I'll take measures to try and win them back. Um, it's funny though. It's a different energy, a theatre audience from a comedy audience. I think there's what I love about the Fringe is you get all age groups watching your theatre shows, which is great. I find though a lot of places where you just do theatre, the audiences tend to be older, and possibly a bit more middle class, and that brings a different audience response. You know,
Do you write to that different audience?
no, no, I always write according to. I'll always find something I want to talk about, and then I'll research it like mad. There's this thing, Ewan. I have this way of working. I'll research and research and research something. I'll have a character in mind, and you hit a point when you research when suddenly the character starts talking to you, and you'll have sort of like almost discussions in your head between you and the character, and sometimes the character will say stuff you really don't agree with, and it's weird. It becomes it's almost like a schizophrenic thing. You'll be walking down the street, and you'll be having challenging the sort of character with certain questions, and they'll be disagreeing with you, and it sort of sometimes plays out in your face. So you'll be walking down the street and you'll be going.
That works really well on a podcast, by the way. Sorry, let me just add that in. At this point, Henry Naylor looks left and right and up. We are waiting for his fourth look down.
Well, you basically you're talking to yourself inside your head, but sometimes those expressions come through in your face.
They were lovely expressions. It has
The
to
local
be said.
nutter. They were right, weren't they?
So,
Right, boy.
when we only look at what you're bringing to the Fringe this year, Monstering The Rocketman,
Yes.
which how close is that? But actually, no. Let's back up. I've read what it's about. People at home, people wherever they're listening, might not. Tell us about the show first of all.
Well, it's based on a true story. It tells the story of when Elton John sued the Sun in 1987, and it was Britain's biggest ever libel case. And basically, the Sun printed the lies of a rent boy at a time when Elton wasn't even in the country. I mean, sort of like, and Elton, understandably, was quite miffed about this, and sued the Sun. The Sun didn't back down. The Sun stuck by this story, and they put all their journalists onto it. And there was about a year when Elton John was pretty much on the front page of the papers pretty much every day. And they'd be uncovering all sorts about him. They'd be digging into his past. They'd find photos of him in the 70s when he was nude. And, Elton started losing all his royal friends. Elton started sort of, as the pressure mounted. And it nearly destroyed Elton. But it also, it really nearly destroyed the Sun. It's sort of the editor of the Sun was put under massive pressure, and in the end, Elton got something unique, which is a £1 million payout, which is twice as much as the previous highest libel payout, which was for Jeffrey Archer. But he also got a front page apology on the Sun, which was unheard of. It said, "We're sorry, Elton," and so it basically relates that story, and it's one of those. It's a story that I think changed Britain, because afterwards the Sun was a bit more cautious. Not just the Sun. I'm not. I mean, this is. It just happened to be the Sun that got caught in this story. It could have been any of the other tabloids. They were all up to it. In fact, the Daily Star was the one who got sued by Jeffrey Archer, and they had to pay up £500,000. And I think the Sunday People might have had to pay out 300,000 to Q Stark. So it was a real theme of the 80s. But the thing about the Sun was it was just so massively popular. It had so much influence. At the time, it had it sold 5 million copies a day, which are read by as many as 12 million people. And that's one in five of Britain. And so its influence and its sway was massive. There's no real. We only really had the print media and the broadcast media. There was no internet, and so the press at the time had a massive influence. So uh, I think it's kind of quite a good way by talking about this historical story. It's a good way about talking about contemporary issues of the press and fake news and um, the effects of sort of dodgy internet stories, and I think sort of I think it's a good way of talking about today, even though it's set in the past.
I mean, we're talking now close to 40 years, depending on which
Yes.
which edition of that publication that you would go for.
Yeah.
How does the fact that they're still recognizable names,
Yes.
Elton John is still part of the current zeitgeist, does that help negate the sort of 40-year gap? Does it make it easier to bridge to the modern audience?
Well, it does in a way. It sort of says like if the Sun had won and Elton's reputation had been severely compromised, we'd have lost on 40 years of Elton. And regardless of what you think about his music, his work as a humanitarian is unbelievable. I mean, he's raised over £600 million, $600 million to fight AIDS. And he's changed the dialogue about AIDS. I mean, sort of before he started his sort of AIDS Foundation, there was so much homophobia in Britain based on fear, I think, and that the gay community was being blamed unfairly for the disease. And I think Elton helped change public perceptions enormously. Him and Princess Diana. I mean, sort of, but I think there's something very laudable about that. And I think also he's shown celebrities how to use their status as a force of good. And I think sort of like he's become a sort of elder statesman. And it would have been a shame to have lost that because his value for society has been enormous, I think.
What's it like trying to get into a character which is based on a real person?
Well, it's slightly different this from normal stuff because there is so much in the public domain. I mean, it's all sort of, in the papers. Uh, his life and career are very well documented. I think with and the Sun too. I mean, sort of, it's all out there. So I think. But one thing I don't want to do is I don't want it to be an out and out. I'm not out and out attacking the press. I think the press are vitally important, and we really. And this is why I wanted to write this, is because we really need the free press now, strong, powerful, and responsible to help protect democracy, because I think the last year has been alarming in terms of challenges to the West, NATO. I think it's been a long time since world peace has felt so compromised. I think some democratic institutions have come under fire. I don't like the way that our country is getting more extremist, and it's alarming the way things have been going in America, I think. And so we need the press calling. We need a source of truth we can rely on. And I think the tabloids were we need them as strong as they were in the 80s, but we need them to be more, perhaps more responsible and chase profits less and chase the truth more. The journalistic imperative is that the truth the truth is paramount. You have to tell the truth. You have to be trustworthy, and I think in the mid 80s the tabloids lost sight of that, and I think that it was to do with the sort of publishing wars between the Mirror Group, the Sun, and the Star, and they all were chasing the highest circulation figures rather than doing the job that and there were bingo wars. There were sort of every vice was catered to. There was naked pictures of naked women on page 3. And it became less about being a newspaper and more about being about sales, about paper money. So I think sort of like I'm saying, I think what I'd like to argue is the press are great, but please press, we need you. We need you to be a force of truth. Yeah.
How much can this play impact the conversation?
Oh, I don't know. I doubt very much at all. It's a fringe play. I do like doing shows though, which get people talking. If it's just my audience talking, that's fine. But I mean, like with every show you do, you hope it's going to find a large audience, and it may do, it may not. But if it does, I don't know. I really think there's a lot in this idea, and I don't know what to do with it next. If it goes well, then I might turn it into either a musical or I might turn it into a novel. I don't know. But I'm playing with a few ideas. But if it doesn't go well, then I'll just go and come up with something else.
But in all of that, you said that, it's a piece of fringe. This is what fringe theatre is for. This is why Edinburgh, here we go back to old guys from the fringe, folks. This is why Edinburgh specifically, and fringe theatre as a whole, is so important, because it does give, this is going to sound so high and mighty, it does give society that pressure valve to talk about these things.
Yeah, and I think society needs it. Yeah, and what I like about what you said there, Ewan, is just the fact that I think fringe theatre is very often more challenging than big West End theatre, because big West End theatre tends to play it safe. It's all about big bucks. It's all about being able to charge people 150 quid a ticket, like it is in London. And I think as a result, people play it safe, and they'll put on old classics rather than sort of challenging work which provoke people and which are perhaps more relevant for today. I think on the fringe circuit, you'll genuinely see some really interesting ideas, and partly because the teams are so small. I think one thing that happens when a lot of money comes involved and a lot of producers come involved, then ideas get diluted, and it's far more interesting to see somebody like Alexei Sale on stage being a stand-up, railing against everybody, than seeing Alexei Sale if he'd been on the TV and the producers are saying, you're gonna have to tone down the language, you're gonna have to tone down the ideas, people are going to be watching. Do you know what I mean? So I think you can see at its best, fringe theatre can be really challenging and really provoking for the public debate, and it's its own art form as well. I think there's something challenging about getting a good show done in an hour. I think sort of, sometimes a big 3-hour epic can be sort of unwieldy, needs chopping down. condensing your ideas to an hour. It's his own art form. I think I'm a big fan.
So your hour this year.
Yep.
Tell us where we can see the show.
Pleasance Ace Dome at 4:10 in the afternoon.
Have you done that room before?
So, I've not done that room. No, I've done that. I've done the.
That's the thing. You've. It's like there's a lot of comics going, I'm going to be at the Fringe, and then you're like, just like, yeah, which room? I mean, is this the room you want to play it in? Is there another room that, in all of Edinburgh, you think, I wish I was in that shape?
Everybody has favourite rooms, I think. I mean, I normally play the Gilded Balloon dining room, but the Teviot is shut this year for refurb. And I've tended to do. I've done most of my shows at the Gilded, but I've done quite a few at the Pleasance, and I think it's also. It's nice to sort of do a different venue, and because I think certain people will just target a venue and they'll see all the shows there, and so I'll see people at the Pleasance that I would never see at the Gilded, I think, and vice versa.
You've done this marathon before. How do you get through it?
I mean, I've done over 20. Gigged at over 20 different festivals at Edinburgh's, and if the show goes well, it is the fastest month of your life. And I've had 2 which haven't gone so well out of 20, and that's just turgid. But it's like I said, I've had all the extremes. I mean, I've had shows that I had a show a couple of years ago which had sold out its entire run after only 4 days of the festival. It's just one of those ones that just captured the imagination, and that is just so brilliant. That was just so brilliant. It just was. There's no pressure to go out and flyer, and you knew the show was good because like the public was basically telling you it was good, and it's one of those shows that just sit at the back and think I wouldn't change a word of this one, and that's quite rare. You normally every show typically you go, I fix that bit, and I think I can have to wait till the end of the run, but that one right from the get-go, I thought, no, I've got this one right. And that was just lovely. Yeah, I think so. The best way to stay happy is just make sure the show's good.
Simple rules to live by. And the other one is come up to the Fringe, see something take a chance in something else, and then ask somebody else. And just keep repeating that for the entire month. Henry, you've been all of those to me throughout the last decade or two.
Oh, that's it.
Appointment viewing, picked up at random, mentioned by others. Monstering the Rocketman. I haven't even come round to the fun of that title yet. We'll leave that one for one of the written pieces somewhere else. Pleasance Dome, 4:10 every day. We will have a link back at our website straight into the box office, so you don't have to navigate that search engine that Ed Fringe has got. edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com. Henry, where can people find out more about you online?
I don't, to be honest, I don't really do a lot of online stuff. You see all these poor people.
Do you have a fan club where we can send a stamped addressed envelope to?
I think I'm probably a bit too old to have really understood the complexities of the internet, and I'm on Instagram. I think I'm on Naylor.Henry, I think.
We will get a link into that as well, or we'll ask you PR people, where are you posting stuff pretending to be Henry? Oh, it's here on Instagram. Henry, the Fringe wouldn't be the same without you. Thanks for coming back again.
Bless you, Ewan, and thanks for having me, mate.
Henry Naylor there, talking about the press, the Fringe, and his new show, Monstering The Rocketman. It is on at Pleasance Dome for 10 p.m. from Wednesday, 30th of July through to Sunday, 24th, as August. As always, links back to the box office on our website, edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com, and to Henry's Instagram there as well. Another preview next week as we probably look at the new media landscape and how you make your name and create content in the connected world, and how that can all be upended and how you then take all of that upending and bring it to the Fringe. And we will be doing a couple more previews and then speeding up to the daily shows when we get to August. For now, I'm making content on the internet, so link, like, love, share, subscribe, all the usuals, all the usual places. If you're listening to us on a podcast app or service, please consider leaving a star review or hitting the 1 through 5s or whatever. It does help other people find us. It boosts us a little bit up in the search engines there as well. And I will be with you in the next show in a week's time. Thanks very much for listening. The Fringe is 7 days closer, and I'm getting so excited. Ta-ra for now. You've been listening to the Edinburgh Fringe Show, hosted by Ewan Spence, produced by the Podcast Corner for Spence Media and Radio 6 International. Listen to more from the Fringe at edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com.